Hey guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic Channel. Hope you're all having a spectacular day. And as always, autodidactic means to be self-educated, and we need to be self-educated, especially in these times, because as we know, the information that we're given is far from true, and so we need to use our own intelligence and curiosity to dig through and find out where the truth really is. And today I thought we would have a look at a few things. We're going to have a look at some old, what are called old cities, rock cities, and then we're going to have a bit of a look into the properties of rock and sound, and finish up with a bit of ancient tech for you. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's jump into this. And this is a video that I got sent to me by Cameron. Thank you, Cameron. And this is New South Wales, Australia, where the fires went through at the start of this year. And it's pretty interesting. You'll see why he sent it to me. I'll just put the volume up for a little bit.
The place is looking like a lunar landscape right now, but the Lost City is still worth a visit. The Lost City are actually rock pagoda structures that have been weathered to look like decaying remains of an old city. As a result, they've been called the Lost City. I've never, ever seen it look like this before. I'm going to get out and take a look.
So there you go. I hope you could hear that all right, but this is called the Lost City, and they literally said there's pagodas everywhere, and you can see them.
The Lost City is always spectacular, but this time it really highlights the effect the bushfires have had on this region. Crazy, absolutely crazy. To think that this place used to be, you couldn't have even walked down through there, it was that thickly wooded. Yeah. Now look at it, incredible, absolutely incredible. How you doing, mate? You good?
He loves heights, old Sean.
For those folks at home that don't know, Sean and I on heights are good friends.
So there you go, guys. The Lost City. Now I did have a look. There's not too many pics of this, but as you can see, there's things like this everywhere. These kind of pagoda-looking things, and he does call them pagodas. There's another one down there. Yeah, and this is actually called the Lost City. So obviously I had a bit of a look. Couldn't find too many pictures, but I did find this site. This is just a four-wheel drive site. And this is the general sort of area. And as you can see, we've just got these kind of bits popping up. You know, and that's like a triangle, and there's sort of a lot of them are rounded off. And it's the same kind of thing we see everywhere, really. Just these interesting formations that just sort of pop out where they really don't look like they should be popping out. And again, like I said, this is called the Stone City. This looks, you know, that familiar melting that we've seen. And we get things like this. This rock is wearing a little hat. And look at this. It's just hanging out by itself, this big piece of whatever this is. Melted something. And like I said, I couldn't find too much, as I don't think there's pictures here, but this is it again. And as you can see, we just get these rounded off, what look like, and even down here, see these kind of triangle type bits that make it look like a almost like a Thai temple kind of thing. There you go. So like I said, not the best pictures for this one. I couldn't find a lot. Here's a train. One day people were going home and they decided, no, had enough of that, and they got off and just left it there to rot. Here again. So yeah, you get to see these formations, and they're actually just all over the place, and they're calling them pagodas. So I thought that we would have a bit of a look at, yeah, just some interesting rock formations in Australia. And really, what are these things? You know, we're told a story, and I guess we've got to ask ourselves, why are we told this story? Why are we told that everything is so definite and finite, and we're never told to question? In fact, if we do question, society tends to turn into Mr. Smith and start yelling at us. So why is that? And why are there some things that are so-called academic, that, you know, unless you go and, you know, spend $100 grand and go and get yourself programmed and get those letters after your name, you're not allowed to question that field of thinking. Things like geology, we're seeing that a lot in medicine lately. Obviously history, this channel's still banned because I'm saying things they don't want me to, I guess, about history. But yeah, I'm still unmonetized and shadow banned, and all because we're looking around at a bit of geology and asking a few questions. So why is that? That's a very good question to ask ourselves. And this is the lost city of Litchfield National Park in the Northern Territory in Australia. You can see on this little map, it's right up the top near the ocean. And it just says here, the lost city is a series of large sandstone outcrops that evoke the remains of an ancient civilization. A spectacular sight, this landmark is located in a remote and hard to access area of Litchfield National Park, just over an hour's drive from Darwin. And that's really all we get, apart from it just says it's good for four-wheel driving. Only people experienced in handling four-wheel drive vehicles should attempt the journey to the lost city. The approach road is single lane and leads past numerous termite mounds. So there we go. Lots of geology for you there. And so what is the lost city? And here we have the lost city. And as you can see, this is a pretty large outcrop, or what we're told is an outcrop, but these definitely look like something. And as you can see, lots of them have actually got rocks balancing on the top of them. There's just a few pics here. There's lots of interesting spots in it, like this. So if we have a look here, look at this. Looks like some kind of pillar, and you can see it's open behind it. Even down here, it looks like it's been worked, and this bit here looks like a lintel. See that? See that the nature doesn't make straight lines and right angles. Up here as well. I mean, this. You can, you know, see the striations everywhere, and just balancing up here again on pillars. Obviously, this looks like whatever it was, if it was man-made, has been pretty destroyed, pretty old. Here's another shot of just how sort of vast this area is, and there's just stuff popping up everywhere. Here's another shot, balanced rocks again, and this is the kind of stuff we see, you know, in places like Egypt, huge megalithic blocks, you know, balanced as lintels and things. Because how else did that rock get there? That's clearly not joined to these other two rocks. And look at it. I don't know, maybe the striations are the same way. It just looks, I mean, it hasn't sat there and broken away through weathering, let's just say that. Here's another one. Sorry about all these squiggles. I couldn't find any good photos that weren't paid for. So again, this is that, I think this is that photo we saw before, but from a different angle. And I mean, look at this. This is clearly, this does not look like weathering. This looks like things have been stacked up on top of each other. And yeah, hit with something. And see this, you can kind of see, it's like a crackling kind of effect. I mean, it does kind of look, you know, bricky as well, but you know when you burn wood and you get this kind of effect? I don't know, it reminds me of that. But again, you know, just stuff everywhere that are straight lines, angles, you know, look at that. That looks like it's been carved to fit in there. Yeah, so this is actually called the Lost City in Litchfield. Another shot here of just, you know, looks like a man-made hole here. You know, this, it just looks a bit not natural, doesn't it? The way, and they tell us that this is all to do with weathering, but we just have all these, you know, random bits of hard rock. Do we what cut? Because this is the thing, they say that these are standing because the rest, you know, what was soft around them has worn away. That's what they say. So how, you know, what kind of level of land are we talking here? You know, if that's had stuff worn away, and I mean, what are they saying, that the land level's up here and it all got blown away and we get left with this? Because that's pretty much what they try and tell us about how these kind of formations are formed. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, and these are all being toppled and, you know, smashed around a lot. I just found this picture interesting. Looks like a rhinoceros or something having something to eat, doesn't it? Frozen in time. Hevitska. This is called Sugarloaf Mountain in Brazil. And quite an interesting formation there. And this is called Cave Beach in Jervis Bay in New South Wales. And it's a pretty interesting looking cave, don't you think? I mean, what do you think? Does that look man-made or does that look nature-made? You can see these big joins, mortar joins or striations. This looks like a lintel placed in there. Whoa. See, you can see. I mean, you can see that join. That just looks like a different piece of rock, doesn't it, to this and this? And yeah, this. Got it at the back there as well. Got it here, and it looks like all the way up. Here's another shot, and clearly, I mean, that's a squared off entrance. It's not. You know, everything they show us, it's natural, you know, that they tell us is natural. It's pretty much an arch. You know, that there's not many things that have got right angles and straight walls that they will try and really explain. They just try and ignore them. Because that's clearly, I mean, just look at that. It's got, you know, it looks like it's a big carved entrance. You know, I've got these, you know, it looks like sand. This is what we call told is sandstone again, but we saw what happened in Lebanon to that building, didn't we, recently? This is inside the cave. And again, just look at this stuff. I mean, I know geology talks about things being put down in layers, but I mean, come on, look at that. That is pretty much what you see in Egypt and Peru and these places with these mortarless joints and, you know, the whole famous line of you can't even get a human hair in there. That's what that looks like. Another one here. Another one along here. And even one down here. And we have them on this side as well. These, I don't know, these look a little bit small. It's hard to see, but I mean, yeah, what do you think? Does that look man-made or does that look natural? Up here again, got all these bits, all these lines. This just looks like a huge, you know, megalithic rock that's been put in there. So there we go, Jervis Bay Caves, natural or man-made. And one more. Yeah, here we go. So it's straight into the water, obviously, but I mean, again, they're just very, very straight edges, aren't they? These lines are very straight and level. You know, all the way up. What's this? I mean, that could have been carved later, who knows? You know, even down here, we get the same kind of look that we're starting to see everywhere. So, Yeah, what really is this? These are the pinnacles in Western Australia, and again there's a lot of these just poking out of the sand, and of course we're told these are sandstone, and what happens to sandstone when it gets turned to dust? It gets turned to sand, doesn't it? And this is pretty much out in a desert sandy area. Nice hole there, but just these things, what are they really? Are they looking, I don't know, is that heat affected or is it just wind? They tell us, like, again, that all the softer stuff blows out and we get these funny shapes. I don't know, we've got lots of this kind of stuff in Australia. So that's the pinnacles in Western Australia. These things as well, they're not huge. They're sort of, the shorter ones are, sort of only a few feet tall, up to sort of 8 or 10 feet, I guess. Maybe the bigger ones are a bit taller. So these aren't like huge buildings, but again, what is this? Maybe the top of something? I don't know. And these are called the bungle bungles, and this is again in the Northern Territory in Australia. And I mean, just look at the layering, the color layering on this. It's like striped. It's stripy rock. So they're obviously saying this is just natural, but it's got a kind of a bricky look to it, doesn't it? I don't know, what do you think? We're getting closer there. It's very hard to see, but it kind of looks a bit bricky, but definitely look at, definitely different layers. I mean, but yeah, totally natural, this one. Let me just get back out. And just looking, I mean, what is, looking very much like, a bunch of buildings and domes that have sort of been melted together. We've got something popping out the top here. Yeah, so this is an internal view, and you can see this is how big this is. We've got trees, little lake here, sand, but look, see how sort of curved that is? I don't know, what do you reckon? In this, looking a bit dome-like to me. And I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, it looks like it's been sort of knocked over, like it's on an angle now. Like it was a big pillar or something, or obelisk in the middle of this place maybe. And yeah, what do you think? Does that sort of look like the inside of a dome? This is another shot just to show you how big this place is. It's huge, and these things are just everywhere. And all with this stripy look. And here's another one. I'll see if we can get in a bit closer on this. So see this kind of look. Okay. Oh, okay. Now that's interesting, is it? I mean, it doesn't explain the layering, but see how this looks like this might be the facade, the outside, and this might have been where it's crumbled off. Don't know why it's done it in lines, but that's what that kind of looks like there. See how it looks like it's protruding? And again, that crackled look that you get when, you get it on wood, don't you, when it's under extreme heat or when it's burnt. Pretty interesting, the bungle bungles in the Northern Territory. And these are the Devil's Marbles. And again, I mean, how did this rock get here? They'll probably tell you that, this was part of this rock and over time it's worn away this, but I mean, clearly we can see a line straight through there. It's not joined. Same here, these are balancing rocks, they've balanced them. And look at the shape of this, that's pretty cool stuff. So, balancing rocks, there's lots of these around the world. That's just so you can see sort of the size, and obviously they're pretty, heavy and stable. They have these in you find these all around the world. You find them on beaches. In the US, I've seen them on beaches. Obviously, in the jungles in South America, just sitting up there like an egg, ready to roll, but probably been there for 1,000 years. And these things, they make noise. Oh, okay. So that's not the devil's marble. That's the devil's other bit. It's okay. Look at that. Look how that is split in half. Now there is one like this in pretty much exactly the same in India. And so I was thinking about these rocks and these standing, stone type things that we see, like the pinnacles, that don't seem to be big enough to be buildings. So what are they? And here we have an article on Stonehenge, Sacred Singing Stones. And down here it says, the stones are a prehistoric glockenspiel. They were chosen, says a new survey, for their acoustic qualities, which makes them sing when struck. The Stonehenge, at 4,000 years old, could possibly be the earliest known source of rock music. And so this is not a new phenomenon, these ringing stones that we find all over the place. This is in Mongolia. And this is Gobistan, ancient land where stones can sing. And there's lots of petroglyphs around here as well. And it says the Gaval Dash, which stands at the entrance to the park, is one of 4 singing stones found in the reserve. When this hefty 2-metre long stone is struck with smaller rocks, it makes a hollow ringing sound. In Azerbaijani, Gaval Dash means tambourine stone. Of course, Michael Tellinger has collected many of these smaller stones, and when you tap them, they ring like bells. And this is just Praveen Mohan, and he's found a singing stone. This is actually called the musical instrument of Shiva.
Now,
and as you can see, that stone, rings quite loudly. And it's the only rock out of all of these that does it. Now, this is actually called the Temple of Shiva, so obviously something's going on here. A lot of destruction, but this is still sitting in a place where it can be rung. So, these ancient stones that ring, what is it all about? Because obviously then we get into sound and acoustics and cathedrals. And these, they sound like bells, and they remind me of bells. So are these something to do with healing? These places that people could go, and they were for different types of healing, and you could hit the stone and get the right vibration, maybe lie on the stone. I'm not sure, but it's the more we look into the past, sound is becoming a big part of it. Sound, electricity, electromagnetism, everything that we're not told about, basically. And just to take a bit of a right turn, as far as sound, obviously, there's been a lot of looking into, the cymatics and everything to do with healing and, different frequencies. But we also have a lot of stuff in our past that tells us that sound was also used as a weapon. Of course, we have the whole sort of the angels of Armageddon, is it? Who come through, the 7 angels. They've always got horns, the trumpets of the apocalypse. And there's always trumpets and horns, and, the first horn sounds. And we also have this story of Jericho and the walls of Jericho and how they fell. And so what it says here, I'll just quickly read through it. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its kings and its fighting men. March around the city once with all armed men. Do this for 6 days. Now that's New International Version. It doesn't really make sense. And ye shall compass, or go around, I guess, the city with all your men of war. So this had to be the armed men. They had to have their weapons and their armor and stuff on. And go around about the city once. Thus shalt do for 6 days. So I guess what it's saying is go around the city one time every day for 6 days. That's marching around. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. So this is the Ark of the Covenant. The ark. The spark, maybe. The spark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the trumpets, so making the sound, making the vibration. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout, again, sound, vibration. Then the wall of the city will collapse, and my army will go up, everyone straight in. So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord and have the 7 priests carry trumpets in front of it. And he ordered the army, advance march around the city with an armed guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord. Armed, they have to be armed. With Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets before the Lord went forward, blowing their trumpets, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. So what's going on here? We've got sound invoking the ark somehow. It's like the sound is the switch. You hit a certain, I don't know, vibrational frequency and it turns the ark on. The ark on. The ark on. That's nice. The armed guard marched ahead of the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard followed the ark. All this time the trumpets were sounding. And so this is a big procession as well. And we see this played out today in military tattoos with all the marching bands, and also in military formations, which Martin mentioned the other day. They're always in these formations, and they do certain things with their weapons. They spin them round and they walk in a funny way. It's all this, what we call ceremony, but what really is it? Joshua had commanded the army, do not give a war cry, do not raise your voices, do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout, then shout. So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling it once. Then the army returned to camp and spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets went forward, marching before the ark of the Lord, blowing the trumpets. The armed men went ahead of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets kept sounding. So it needed a guard at the back of it as well, so that there's always armed men ahead of it and a rear guard. It said that in the previous passage. So on the 2nd day they marched around the city, and once returned to the camp, they did this for 6 days. Then on the 7th day they got up at daybreak, marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, so the same direction, except that on that day they encircled the city 7 times. They circled the city 7 times instead of once. The 7th time around, when the priest sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. And the city and all that is in it are to be devoted to the Lord. Only Rahab and the prostitute and all who are with her in the house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away from the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. Okay, so they're not allowed to take anything, any devoted things, or any, devote, that's idols, and what really are all these things, I guess, all these, little statues and trinkety type things. So they're not allowed to bring anything like that out. So again, are we talking tech here? All the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go to his treasury. Okay, so the Lord wants it all because the Lord needs gold. Apparently, when the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed, so everyone charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Nice. So for the Lord, they destroyed the walls and then murdered every person in the city, apart from the ones that helped them get in and destroy the city, and they even took out all the animals. Now, this is a common theme. We've looked at Sodom and Gomorrah, we looked at Uruk. All these cities are obviously, biblical. They're all in the same area in what we call now the Middle East, and they've all been destroyed. And what destroyed them all? The biblical pictures of Sodom and Gomorrah and the stories sort of speak more of something coming down from above, some kind of weapon by the sounds of it. But this is clearly talking about sound weapons and horns and trumpets, and we get the same thing, the 7 trumpets, and again that number 7, the 7 trumpets of the apocalypse. And of course, apocalypse means unveiling, to lift the veil. So we've got sound, we've got trumpets, we've got the number 7. So what is really going on here? And I'll get into the Ark of the Covenant in another video, but it's interesting that they have the Ark there. So they're using vibration, and then they've got the Ark, and when all the warriors in their uniforms with, in their armor with their weapons, when they all shout, the walls fall down. So, have they been, is this walking around and blowing trumpets? Is this energizing the ark, building up power somehow? And when they shout, it releases it. So I'm going to have to look into that story a bit deeper, I think. And I just wanted to also look at this. So this is plastered skulls that were found in Jericho. And basically what they are is they are actual skulls, but they've got plaster put over them, and they've got shells and things for the eyes, but underneath is an actual skull. Apparently, now I haven't been able to find any sort of x-ray pictures or anything. Some of them look, a lot more skull-like than others. Now, why are they covering these skulls? I mean, because the thing is, there is a story about a skull that was found in ancient India. Now, this is something that's an ancient skull called barbaric. And as you can see, did ancient India have AI robot technology? And the story goes, in the year 1027 AD, about 1,000 years ago, a group of workers were digging the groundwater for a village called Kaifu in the state of Rajasthan in India. After digging for more than 30 feet, they found a strange metal box which was sealed airtight. On the box there was one word engraved: barbaric. When they broke the box open, inside there was the skull, but it was not a regular skull made of bones. It was made of a shining metal. What's even more strange is the skull had 2 eyeballs in the eye sockets. The workers immediately ran to the king who was ruling this place, and at the time his name was Brup Singh Chauhan, and he called all the learned men to convene at his court to understand about this barbaric's skull. Who could it be? How can this skull be made of metal? So let's wind the clock back about 5,000 years ago, where Lord Krishna decides to meet Barbaric after hearing about his strength and intelligence. The Great War of the Mahabharata is about to begin soon, and Krishna wants to see which side Barbaric is going to support. So at this point, Barbaric in the story was described just as this great warrior that no one could beat. He was very not intelligent. That they say he was not like a human as far as intelligence, but he could store information and recall it and do calculations and things, but he couldn't answer back. He couldn't think for himself. And so it says Krishna heard about him, and because he was the best warrior, Krishna wanted him on his side, so he went to meet him. And it says the Great War. So Barbaric did not recognize Krishna, but demonstrates his extraordinary speed and precision in operating advanced weapons. So he was very good with weapons as well. Krishna is shocked and realizes that Barbaric would be the game changer in the upcoming war. However, Krishna observes that Barbaric's intelligence is not human-like. He followed a robot-like thinking and action. Krishna asks him about his position in the war. Barbaric replies that he would support the side which is weaker than the other side. He says it is his duty to save as many humans as he can. So at this point, Krishna poses a very simple question which completely bewilders Barbaric. Krishna says, if Barbaric supports the weaker army and begins to destroy the stronger army, at a certain point, the stronger army will become the weaker army, and the once weaker will now be stronger. What would Barbaric do? To which he responds, I would change sides, which obviously means that this barbaric robot with his robot intelligence would end up killing everyone when he actually thinks he's trying to save them. It's a bit of a 1984 Orwellian doublespeak there. So this is the story of Barbaric and this skull that they found. And we don't have many pictures. It is in a temple at the moment still. But the reason I talk about this is because they've found skulls, the same kind of thing. Because this barbaric skull is now covered in plaster and made to look like a god, just like all these skulls. So why were people going around destroying all these cities, and why were these cities filled with sin? Now we've got the whole gene thing and the seed of Satan, the bad seed, Canaanites, genetic engineering, back to the sort of Anunnaki and all this kind of stuff, gene splicing. So we're talking advanced civilizations here. So did they have AI and robots as well working for them? And are there remains of these still around? Because there seem to be, like, what's covered? Why is everything covered? There's so many things that have obviously been refaced and covered up. So is there a lot more underneath and a lot more tech? Are there robots around out there? Did they have robots? Because they've found Vimanas as well. And one of the reasons I bring this up is look around at the moment. With the whole AI thing, this is the way that it's going. This is what the parasites want. They want to destroy the creation and create robots, turn us all into AI. And we've seen these lifelike robots. And there's actually video of two of them having a chat with each other. So these guys are already better than Barbaric. And this has been, been brought into our consciousness over, obviously, the last 30, 40 years with robots coming in and Terminator and all these different things. And, of course, Terminator starts off bad. He's the baddie robot, but then he turns out good, doesn't he? Which is interesting. So there's also 2040 Project, if you want to look into that, which is all to do with AI and intelligence and getting it out of the human body. We now have talks of the jab being full of nanobots. So what's that going to do? So is this what has happened in the past? You know, is, as they say, right, future proves past. Is that the saying? I mean, is this all happening again? We seem to be at the end of a cycle. This is all going very strange, very weird. Many veils are being lifted. But what is the underlying agenda? Obviously, they're trying to destroy humans and human ethics and culture and the way that we live. Everything they do is different, and we see this everywhere. They're trying to change our morals. We see it all through Hollywood. We see them preying on our children. But what's the end game? Are they trying to turn us into robots? Are they robots, or do they want us to be more controlled like we're robots? And has this all happened before? Because we also have the chimeras and all the, you know, so-called abominations before the flood, the biblical flood. So there's many questions. So yeah, I will. This is just an intro into this. I'll hit on it in future videos. So what do you think? Like, why were they destroying all these cities? Was, you know, we talk about, you know, serpent seeds and that, but they also say they're not allowed to bring any of the tech out. That's got to stay with the Lord. And then we have robots. So who was inhabiting these cities, and why were they so bad, and why were they so void of ethics and compassion? Is it because they weren't, well, we know they weren't human, but is it because they were maybe created by someone else, but without a soul, so to speak? Many questions. All right, guys, thought I'd throw that one at you. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Give me a like. If you haven't, please subscribe and share this video as well. It does help the algorithm now that I'm being shadow banned, which means my videos don't get shown to many people on YouTube. And also there are links below if you would like to support this channel, as it has been completely demonetized by the thought police at YouTube. All right, guys, have an awesome day. Thanks for spending some time with me, and I'll catch you all on the next upload. Bye for now.